I'm Shahar Azani, and welcome to this JBS Israel Election Special 2022, coming to you all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. We are here at the Suzanne Dalal Center in the neighborhood of Neve Tzedek in Tel Aviv, sitting with Israel's renowned journalist and author, Ben-Dror Yemini. Ben-Dror is the illustrious author of the
Industry of Lies,
one of the most fabulous books everyone should read as it relates to the effort to delegitimize the Jewish state of Israel. Ben-Dror is also one of Israel's leading political mavens, and we are here to hear your input about what transpires in Israel as we speak with the results of the 2022 elections as they're still coming in. How are you feeling today?
First of all, well, I must admit that I did not expect this kind of results. I even wrote against the new elected coalition. I have to admit, that's one. But let's not forget, this is democracy. This is democracy. Democracy is not when what I want is what is elected. And if the other side is elected, it's less democracy. This is not the case. I mean, and let's not forget, this is a story in so many countries. Look at Western Europe. So many far-right parties are rising again and again in Sweden, in Italy, in France, in other places. So they do not face the same kinds of problems that we face with the conflict, with the Palestinians, and so with terror. They do not. And there is a huge rise of the far right. So please don't complain about Israel.
So in this regard, I want to ask you, incoming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has led various coalitions in the past. And it almost used to be a constant in his coalition that there will be a member of a more moderate or a more center-left party, be it Ehud Barak or Tzipi Livni, or even at the time trying to get Herzog in, currently president of Israel, but at the time leader of the Labor. This coalition is going to be different.
This coalition is going to be different, but I think the job of the moderate guy, the responsible guy in the government, will be Benjamin Netanyahu himself. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, if we look at his own history, at 2009 he declared two-state for two-people solution. At 2014 he agreed with John Kerry and the Barack Obama administration about the two-state for two-people solution. Before that, he continued to implement the Oslo Accords. And we can go on, even with Donald Trump. He accepted the idea of two states for two peoples, even if only on 70% of the territories. But he did. He did. So actually, you don't have to look for someone from outside. It's going to be him as the moderate guide of the government.
Allow me to push you on this.
Yeah.
The Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, the religious Zionist party, will have considerable power in this coalition. And so will members of the individual members of their party.
Yeah.
They will exert influence.
Yeah.
To a degree, there are those who claim that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be their prisoner. How do you view this statement?
Prisoner of what? Of what?
Of their wills, desires?
Of what? I mean, it's not that we are speaking about peace process that is going on and all what we are waiting for to sign something. It's not the case, unfortunately, and we have to put it on the table. Unfortunately, again and again, Palestinians said no to every offer. They said no to Bill Clinton, they said no to Ehud Olmert, they said no to John Kerry. They always said no. So it's not on the table. We need a solution. There is a big debate in Israel about the settlements and the expansion of the settlements. A very legitimate debate. But it's not that they are going to put obstacles on the peace process. We don't have a peace process, unfortunately. Not that I like it, but this is the case. So what? We are speaking about some internal issues. About what? About the police, about the army. They are not going to change, not the police and not the army, because just the very same way that the Israel democracy is much stronger than the political field, just in the same way, the army and the police are not going to do something which is against the law or according to crazy orders from an extreme minister. It's not going to happen.
I want to ask you from the perspective of those who stand up for Israel around the world. They will look at this coalition and they will say, up to now, that's always been the case. Israel could justifiably claim and can still claim that there is no partner for peace on the Palestinian side, there is no real willingness to accept Israel, and yet, on the other hand, there may be those who will claim that now even from the Israeli side, there is no chance to negotiate because you don't have a willingness of this coalition to enter, even if there were an opportunity to enter into any kind of peace. How do you view that claim?
First of all, it's a good argument, that's first. But let's say, all of the surprise, a new administration or not a new administration is coming with a normal peace plan for the region. And let's say that Netanyahu will accept it. Now, according to what you are saying, according to what other people might say, but he cannot do it because of the right-wing government.
Right.
No, it's not the case. I'll tell you why. The moment that something will be on the table and it will be realistic, immediately, in no time, he will take the other parties, like Yesh Atid of Yair Lapid or of Benny Gantz. I mean, they are willing to join the government, the coalition, if something will happen in that field. But nothing is happening. If it will happen, the moment after, they will join the government.
At the time, Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed his desire to proclaim sovereignty over some territories in Judea and Samaria. Do you think that the fact that there is a right-wing coalition gives the Prime Minister and his partners the chance to execute such a plan? Do you see it happening anytime soon?
I guess at least one party or two parties will demand annexation. And I guess under the international circumstances, Netanyahu is not willing to annex now. It's not the time. And it's going to be the first test. I hope it will not happen. I'm not telling you that it cannot happen. It almost happened. Right. Now, the big excuse was that, we accept the Donald Trump parameters. And according to Trump parameters, we are allowed to annex 30%. Not 30%, but, the big blocks or something like that. Right. But I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not saying for sure that it's not going to. It might happen.
Netanyahu is seen as the father of the Abraham Accords along with the Trump administrations and other. My question to you is, he had a very, specific coalition as he conducted his efforts to move ahead with the Abraham Accords. Could it be that the current coalition or what's going to be the coalition might bring about the unraveling of those accords?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the agreements, the Abraham agreements, they are in a stage that I don't think any coalition can reverse it. It's not the case. I mean, Israel has many benefits. The Arab Gulf countries have many benefits, and it was just published that Israel supplied the Emirates system against rockets and
right, vis-a-vis Iran.
So I don't think that now somebody will have the interest to reverse it or to change. I mean, maybe here and there the atmosphere will not be as it was before. But just as you said, let's not forget that it was the right-wing government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu who actually signed the agreements. And he did not have, in that time, any partner from the center or from the left.
Right, and proudly so. I would say that these agreements have huge acceptance rate in the Israeli public and beyond.
Completely. And of course, when a right-wing government is signing a peace agreement with an Arab country, I mean, everyone is supported. Right. I'm not speaking about the Arab parties because they want Israel to give up and to make concessions that are unconceivable vis-a-vis the Palestinians, but it's not the case. We are not.
So, even I want to touch upon the Arabs, but I want to ask you a quick question. Your column is one of the most widely read in the Israeli papers. And in your most recent one, you came out with a call for a national unity government. Do you see that happening anytime soon after such a conclusive victory by the right wing?
Not immediately. Not immediately. I don't see it happen because they have quite a stable coalition, right-wing coalition, for the first time.
Right.
After so many years that we
Right.
did not have this kind of stability.
Right.
So, stability is achieved, but it's not the only one story. If something will happen, yes, there will be a unity government. For the moment, they do not need it. The question is how far they are going to go. How far? With some changes in the legal system, in the judicial.
Yeah, let's talk about the legal system for a minute. The Netanyahu's trial, for instance, is it the end of that trial?
No, it's not the end. He declared, and I hope he's going to keep his word, that nothing is going to change in his own trial.
On his own initiative, but you heard people like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich saying, we're going to change,
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think even in his own coalition, in his own party, there are people that are against this kind of move. I don't want to give names because it's only going to hurt them, but generally speaking, I think there are at least 4, 5, 6, 7 Knesset members that know the limits. And I think that even Netanyahu himself knows the limits.
The big discussion in the 5 rounds of elections has continuously been whether it's yes Bibi, no Bibi. Is it the end of that discussion?
I wish it was. I wish it was because I think it only made damage. It only damaged the center-left bloc. Only damage. Come on. People do not buy it. People do not. We want to speak about the real issues, not about yes Bibi, no Bibi. Nobody spoke. Nobody spoke in the last round about religious and state, or
Right.
about settlements, or about peace with the Palestinians. Nobody spoke about it. Everyone spoke about yes Bibi, no Bibi, and the legal process against him. Enough. We had enough. It's counterproductive. I say it again and again. Unfortunately, they did not take my advice.
Would you call upon Lapid, for instance, who said, I will not share the same coalition with Bibi, or Benny Gantz the same, to say, let that not be your position, let your position be issue-based rather than person-based?
It's exactly my article for the weekend. First weekend after the elections, this is exactly my article. Enough. You have to think. You have to think. Did it help us or not? And I think the answer is clear. No, it did not help us. Because so many people believe that Netanyahu suffered from a kind of prosecution. He was prosecuted in a very harsh way, and it was not fair. You know what? I have news for you. I think that something there went wrong. I don't think that he is innocent. I don't think that he is pure. But I think they went too far. They went too far. So enough. Please, enough.
I want to touch for a minute on the Arab issue. And let's talk about Mansour Abbas. Mansour Abbas, head of the United Arab List, came out with a vision, spoke about working together, being part of a ruling coalition, not talking only about the Palestinian issue, but focusing on the many relevant and legitimate issues that exist within the Arab society. And what I want to ask you is, he made a chance and he jumped into the pool of the Change Coalition. Now, it doesn't seem like he's going to be welcome in a Bezalel Smotrich coalition who thwarted these attempts of Netanyahu last time. Do you think his vision, his enterprise, his initiative is going to come to an end as a result?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think that, first of all, we see that he received 5 seats in the Knesset, which means that he is stronger than what he was before.
Right.
That's one. Second, he has a lot of achievements. We cannot ignore it. Many times you cannot see it immediately. But if we go back to the last 10 years, just 10 years ago, we had something like 9% of Arab students, when there are something like 20% in the population. Now we have 17%, which is almost like the Jews. So gaps
But
decreased.
you know what I
No,
love? I
no,
love
no.
about Ben-Dror. You love focusing on facts, figures, and numbers, and that's what makes you so special in the Israel discussion globally.
Yeah.
But it's not a secret that the right wing, and Netanyahu specifically with Likud, they have made Mansour Abbas into the poster child of the current campaign. Collaboration, Halas with terror. I mean, they focused on him.
Yeah.
They called him terror supporters in spite of all of his efforts. So how do you view that?
But let's not forget, and most people know it, they wanted to form a government with Mansour
Right,
Abbas.
exactly.
They did. Now, because of propaganda, they kind of vilified him like in the government,
Right.
but not because of him. The moment that they will need him, they will cooperate even with him. So it's a political game.
And
It's
it
a
was
political
Netanyahu
game.
who opened the
Of
door.
course, it was Netanyahu who met him. It was Netanyahu who went to the big rabbi of Israel, and they met the three of them together. So, come on, we know the truth. So, and the very fact that things change, and Arabs in Israel are doing much better.
So you're not closing the door on that collaboration?
They decrease the gaps
Right.
in employment. I mean, look at the hospitals. The percentage of Arab doctors is higher than their percentage in the population.
Right.
So, I mean, all of this kind of stupid propaganda, Israel is an apartheid state and so on. Well, there are problems. We see them. We have right-wing government. Nothing to do with apartheid. It has to do with the political debate. Nothing to do with
And
apartheid.
security situation.
And of course, and let's not forget, we have a minority among the Arabs. They are violent.
Correct.
I mean, we have it in every society. We have it in Sweden.
But
we
I
have it
think the
in France.
breaking point was the Guardian of the Walls last
Exactly,
year when you
yeah.
saw the fracture within Israel.
Yeah. You saw the fracture, but you see the fracture every day in Sweden and in other countries because of the violence.
So you're still hopeful that the Mansour Abbas way can still find its path and it's not the end of that, what many people call, and I don't love this word, experiment.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. It will continue. I mean, if not in 1 year, then in 3 years. But it will continue, this kind of cooperation between Jews and Arabs. I mean, this is a way we don't have. I mean, it's a Jewish state, but Jewish and democratic state. We have an Arab minority that should be respected, full rights. Yes, it's a Jewish nation state, of course.
And so many people, welcomed his statement of, here I am, I recognize you're a Jewish state, there is nothing I can do about it. The most we can do is play a constructive part. Isn't that what we always wish for?
Completely.
But then on the other hand of the Arab equation, Arab-Israeli equation, we have Balad. Balad, which was founded by Azmi Bishara, who committed espionage against Israel during the Second Lebanon War. Balad that seeks at the end of the day, the annihilation of the state of Israel as a Jewish state and a very extreme political entity within Arab society. And the depressing part, even though it didn't pass the electoral threshold because it parted way with the other Arab parties, it came very close.
It came very close. I don't like this party, I have to admit. I mean, they are doing a huge damage to the Arab population in Israel. And right now, we see who is winning. Which way is winning? The way of Azmi Bishara that you mentioned, which is an extreme nationalist, anti-Israeli way, or the way of Mansour Abbas? And Mansour Abbas is winning. I mean, he received double voters comparing to Balad. So something is changing, even in the Arab society. And there is a rule. We have to remember there is a rule. You don't need the majority in order to make problems. You need 15% of dedicated people that are behaving in a violent way, and in order to destroy everything. They did not destroy. There is a problem. Because of them, and I have to emphasize it, because of them, we see the rise of the extreme right party of Itamar Ben-Gvir that we managed. Just because in the election before, he did not, it's not that he did not
Right, I remember it was almost that he got
0.4,
right,
0.4.
very low.
So, and after the riots, he emerged.
Spike. So even Itamar Ben-Gvir, if we talk about him for a minute, he has a history of being very, very out there on the far right. He claimed and continuously claimed that he has become more of a moderate over the years, much more focused, much more mainstream, much more central. And yet, I have been exposed in the last few days, Ben-Dror, as I'm sure you have with your elaborate connections out there, with people who are vehemently pro-Israel, with young people who support Israel out there on college campuses and beyond, who were frustrated is a kind word.
Yeah.
Sai would even say frightened or petrified by the rise of what they view as the Israeli ultra-right. What is your message today to all those people who stand to support Israel outside of Israel and may be a little bit uncomfortable with the presence of Itamar Ben-Gvir and his party as part of a ruling coalition in Israel?
Okay, I must tell you, just the way that parties like Balad are part of the mosaic, part of the Israeli democracy, just the same way the extreme right is part of this democracy, just like you will not now argue that Sweden is just democracy only because the rise of the extreme right. I mean, last elections, just 2 months ago, they received more than 20%. So yes, we all in the West, we are all facing a kind of rise of the extreme. Israel is not different. But please, relax. Nobody's going to damage the Israeli democracy, even if we have this kind of far right. But far right, we don't have to like it in order to understand that it is part of the democracy. What do you want us to do? Not to let them run? This will not be a democratic step. So we cannot do it. We cannot do it. We have to let them, just as we let Balad, just as we let other parties. So, I mean, I don't think that I don't want to go into the internal politics in the United States, but some people argue that because Trump was elected, maybe the US is not democracy. No, I'm not saying it. This is part of the US democracy. You don't have to like him in order to understand him.
Right.
Just understand the very same way that if we have extreme right and we have extreme left, this is part of the democracy. Yet, the majority in Israel, the majority are somewhere in the middle. Some tend to the right with the Likud party, some tend to the center and left with the Yesh Atid and Benny Gantz and other parties. This is the Israeli democracy. Don't be despaired, don't be frustrated.
Actually, on the day of the elections, I was fortunate to be here. It was incredible to see so many people turn out, so many people care, being very passionate about participating in the political realm, and that's not a common reality today. We're seeing a much more discouragement in the West, a disappointment with the political process, and yet in Israel it's flourishing. Didn't we have one of the highest percentage of voters in these elections?
I can just mention something which is connected to the U.S.
Right.
Menachem Begin visited in the United States, in New York, in 1948, the year of the War of the Independence. And a letter was published in the New York Times. And the letter said, oh, we don't have to welcome this kind of fascist Nazi kind of leader, Menachem Begin. We don't have to accept him here. The letter was signed by 27 people. One of them was Albert Einstein. He was totally wrong. Albert Einstein was wrong. We can all be wrong if he wrong. Because later on, needless to say, even now, a lot of left-wing parties say Menachem Begin was a model for democracy. It's not that we share his views, but he was a model of democracy.
Not to mention the peace with Egypt.
Yeah, of course. So we hear this kind of warnings. Oh, democracy is falling. No, the Israeli democracy is strong and will continue to be strong.
I love that. Such a great note. If Albert Einstein was wrong, so can we. Last question before we conclude. The rise of the Haredi parties. We are witnessing a reality where both Haredi, Sephardic, and Ashkenazi may hold close to 20, if not 20 seats in Israel's Knesset. Compared to the barren wasteland they spent their time in during the last coalition in the last year, how do you feel about that, the rise of power?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because many people vote for this parties not because they are themselves ultra-Orthodox, just because they think it will increase the Jewish identity and that kind of stuff. I don't think so. I disagree with them. I think it is counterproductive for the people who vote for the ultra-Orthodox party. But again, this is part of democracy. Now, we know that, for example, the leader of the bigger party, which means Shas, in his political views, he is quite moderate.
Right.
So you asked me before who is going to be the responsible guy in the government. It's not going to be only Benjamin Netanyahu. It's going to be also the leader of an ultra-Orthodox party, Aryeh Deri.
That seems to be another fabulous chapter that's written into the annals of Israeli politics. Ben-Dror, you know, we usually meet from afar. Now I have the pleasure of spending this morning with you right here in beautiful Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, and we look forward to seeing you again on your upcoming tour in the US.
Thank you for having me, and I'm coming.
Looking forward. And to all of our viewers, that's it from Shahar Azani right here in Tel Aviv in Ben-Dror Yemini as we continue to explore the fascination of the current chapter that's written into Israel's political history with the rise of a new and hopefully stable coalition government, hopefully at some point unity, Ben-Dror. Thank you all for watching and sending you all the best from Israel. Hope to see you soon on JBS. Shalom and lehitraot.